Hello, welcome to the third podcast of the YTCA. My name is Nick,
My name is Theo.
My name's Ezra.
and yeah, thank you guys for joining us in another podcast. Well, as always, if you haven't, go check out our other podcasts because they're also great, even though we only have two for now. And yeah, we have a social media. We have an Instagram. Please go follow that if you want any updates. We'll try to post as often as possible, and the website. And yeah, the website has a lot of things. You know, Theo, would you like to talk about the website a little?
Sure. Right now, the website has the YouTube link to our channel, but I mean, if you watch this video, you already have the link. It
Yeah.
also has some resources. Last video, we talked about this course held by Yale. It's on the science of happiness. You should definitely go check it out. I put more details on the website about that.
And if you want to know
Um,
more about the course, you can always go check out our video. But yeah,
right.
sorry.
Oh, that was pretty much it. Oh, also, I put some, I guess, information about us. Like, if you guys want to know more about us, our mission statement and like what is YTCA in general. Well, that YTCA is the organization we created.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
Everything
we want
to
you guys to know
everything
the.
to
Yeah,
the
sorry.
website and everything that we discussed so far will be in this description. So be sure to check it out.
Yeah, we want to make sure that you guys know we're humans. We're not just a bunch of robots talking to you guys, right? We have emotions. We have our lives. We have our interests and hobbies that we enjoy. So yeah, just
Nick, you're not really helping our case.
I mean,
You're
I'm not.
like,
I'm not. But
we're
like,
definitely not robots. We have emotions. We have
yeah, that sounds
feelings.
like what a robot would say.
Yeah, not helping our case, Nick.
Oh, jeez. Well, welcome again. We hope that you guys will have fun with us and learn something today. Have some kind of takeaway. So this week we're gonna talk about a little more of an extension from last week. Last week we talked about isolation and loneliness, and we barely touched on the topic of creating bonds between people. Now, let's start out with an easy question. All right, let's just get our feet wet here. What does it mean to have a friendship with someone? Or to you guys, what does it mean?
who wants to take this first?
I can take it. I think I think I mean, friendship obviously means different things for different people, and there isn't one like set like type of friendship that you'll have with every single person. But in general, I think friendship is just like being able to know a person well and being able to get to know who they are, what type of things they share in common with you, as well as interests. I think interests are a main aspect of what it means to have a friendship, because that's usually how they form, right? You usually have a common interest or you're part of a common group, and they don't. I mean, friendships don't need to be built off of that, but I think that's generally how a lot of friendships are formed. And yeah,
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But there's always those friendships that, like you like more than others. I guess I guess, kind of give a definition to that. Like, I guess you could say a good friendship, at least in my opinion, is like a good friendship is something that, someone you can rely on, someone you can especially open up to, and
mm,
like, someone who you can have fun with. And of course, there's several different types of friendships. I'm probably only just saying like one of the friendships that I really like. We also have like acquaintance friendships. Like we should be polite with other people. We
hmm
should respect other people. Like especially our classmates and teachers. And yeah, there's several,
yeah,
and it's hard to go over each one.
Yeah, I mean, it's more. I think it's more objective. It's more subjective here, right? It's more, it's what you think a friendship is, right? For me, like I think, you know, a really important part is like people's like, hey, how do I find friends, right? Like we have to have interests, right? Someone that you like to spend time with. But here's the thing: you're not going to find a person that likes exactly what you like in the world, right? Because that's too perfect. That's a little too perfect, right? You're kind of one of a kind. Right? You can't really. It's hard to find someone. Oh, see, that's why I think it's really important to build certain friendships because there's some things that others like, right, that you may not really understand, right? And because after you build that kind of friendship, you understand like, hey, maybe that's not as bad, like maybe I'm interested in it now, right? Um, like for example, um, like let's just say something like as simple, like I don't know, one of my friends doesn't like to put pineapple on pizza, you know? And I like to put pineapple on my pizza. And he's gonna be like, dude, you're weird, right? But after a while, after we hang out, after we, got to know each other, right? He might actually think that, he'll understand my side of things, right? Why I put pineapple on pizza, right? Like it's really important that I think, to see other perspectives, because the friends that you bring in kind of bring in that other perspective for you. You know what I mean?
That's
And I mean, yeah, I know pineapple pizza. That's very controversial. Don't want to, offend anyone here, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's true. I think a lot of the times you're not going to share the same all the same interests or all the same viewpoints and perspectives that your friends share. And I think one of the things that I guess define a friendship or define maybe the level of intimacy of a friendship is how comfortable you are with the person, right? Theo kind of mentioned earlier about being open to them and whatnot, and I think a lot of good friendships are built off of you being very comfortable with the person, even in spite of maybe some differing opinions or even like completely polar opposite viewpoints. Being comfortable with expressing them and being able to understand the other person's opinion and relate to them. You don't have to necessarily yield, but if you're comfortable, then you're gonna they're probably your friend, right? And on the other hand, if you're not very comfortable with a person, then it's much harder to say that um, you have a strong friendship.
that's
Yeah, I
very
could
true.
definitely agree with that. And then there's always that rival friendship
Oh
where
yeah.
you're like competing with the person for like, I guess the best. I guess, you could be kind of cold toward that person, but it's still a friendship. Like you would both support each other and like,
Yeah. I mean,
That's true. That's
rival
true.
friendships are important, right? They're like, you see a friend. It's like, I don't know, in many TV shows, right? I mean, many different kinds of animations. There are rival friends. I'm not trying to allude to anything, but I mean,
No, really?
but right, like rival friends, right? People's like, hey, isn't it not that good to have someone that's a rival? But honestly, I think it's fine. Rivals actually kind of push you a little harder. Like, for example, you see him,
Mm.
right? I don't know. We're gonna say your friend, I don't know, A, right? He's like, yo, oh, look at him. He did his homework faster than I did today, and look at his quality, right? I'm gonna be like, oh wow, I can't lose to him. I'm gonna study harder, right? I mean, yes, a lot of competition is not healthy for oneself, but if not enough competition, I would argue, it's not healthy for you either. Right? You can't be too relaxed. You got to be, a little tense. You got to, try your best, and that other friend kind of pushes you better. I think. I mean, a lot of people might disagree with this, but that's just what I think about a rivalry friendship.
I think it's interesting that you bring up the topic of rivalry. I think, in a sense, yes, it is good to be driven, especially by others. Um, Oftentimes, there is a need for competition, but I also feel like um, a lot of the times you don't want your relationship to be solely based off of competition. There still needs to be a certain level of respect for the other person, obviously, and like a lot of the times people can get overly competitive and then become like too focused on beating the other person rather than improving upon themselves. I think it's a kind of hazy balance that is needed a lot of the times. I feel like in competitive settings where it's not so much like, oh man, I need to beat this person. It's more of admiration for them, respect for them, and then building off of that.
Yeah, I think that's important because you need to make sure that admiration doesn't turn itself into jealousy.
Hmm.
That's when things starts to go wild.
Right.
I think respect is very important. The mutual respect between friends.
Yeah.
And one of the things I want to talk about is I think that's very interesting, but you know, you're not gonna like everyone in the world. That's a fact. There are people you're not gonna like. That's just how life is. But I think it's really important that even if you don't like them, you respect them. The respect is the most important thing. You don't have to like everyone. No one says you ever have to like everyone in the world, but you should respect them at least. Respect them as a human being. I mean, what do you guys think about that? You guys have something to add to that, or
I think respect is like a really good policy to follow. I mean, the golden rule, do others what you want them to do to you, right?
right?
Like, we shouldn't like try to make enemies. Like, I have like the policy, like try to make as many friends as possible, like be friendly with everyone. Like, don't try to offend people that much because, it's better to have friends than, enemies.
Right.
For sure. I think just coming from like more of the Christian perspective, we're called to not just love our neighbors but also our enemies, right?
Right.
And so even though people may do things that we don't agree with, or maybe even do things that attack us, we're still called to not be resentful and not be um, not be hateful towards them, but rather to love them and to show compassion to them, even though they are disrespectful towards us. And in doing so, we display, the glory of God and whatnot. I thought that was an important um, thing to talk about when respecting people is that you're not always going to get their respect back. And that's not the point, right? You're
Right.
not giving them respect so that they respect you necessarily. And like, you're just respecting them because, God commanded you to, and God loves everyone. So as a child of God, we also love everyone, or at least try to.
Right.
Right.
That's the goal.
You don't want to continue. I think it's really important to recognize that if someone disrespects you and you would disrespect them back, you're continuing a negative cycle that they have started,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that doesn't really help the case, right? Is some people might say, right? Hate doesn't defeat hate, only love defeats hate, right? You can, yeah, well, big brain moment, but like it's right. It's like a negative cycle. If you disrespect him back, right, and he disrespect you back, it's just gonna keep on going. The cycle of hatred between the two, right? And that's not really what we are called to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important, right, to see that other people have differences, right? They have differences, and what's important, I think, is to reconcile those differences, right? To say, you have that, I have this, I respect you for having that, and you have respect me for having this. Right? I don't have to say I agree with you specifically, but I respect you for doing it, right? So I think that's important, and yeah, that kind of leads us, I think, a really good leading point into like, how do you build friendship with other people? Of course, inside the pandemic, we'll talk about a little about that a little later about what are some of the difficulties of building bond with others inside the pandemic. How about let's just talk about pre-pandemic era, like what do you do to build friendship with other people?
Before the pandemic attacked.
I have to say, it probably was a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can see people actually and talk to them. Like, I think it's more nerve-wracking to call a stranger on the phone than it is to, meet a stranger in person because at least, you can see what they look like and all that.
Yeah.
True.
So, yeah.
Is it just me or is it just like because like for all my classes, I feel like I don't really know the people that much. Like yes, I do work with them, like in small groups or whatever, right? Like teachers putting in breakout rooms. But is it just me or is it just like I do talk to them and I try to make conversation, make small talk or things like that, right? It's like, but it doesn't really get me anywhere. I feel like it's just you have a temporary bond and it's just boom, it's gone. The second you get out of the breakout room, you probably never talk to him or her again.
That's true. I
Yeah,
think.
that's pretty true.
Okay. I think during before the pandemic, I think at least for a lot of us, I feel like the main mode in which we made friendships was obviously through school, right? I mean, obviously not all friendships start in school, but I think a majority of them were just through like, oh, the classmates that we have, the various people that we meet, even just like in passing period across the hallway or whatnot. And but now like, or actually, we're supposed to be talking about before the pandemic. So yeah, um, during school, you would just like meet people, interact, and a lot of things would really help to communicate with that person about who you are and like help start that kind of bond with that person. You know, body language, what type of classes you share, you know, overall demeanor, and you know, even like physical traits like what do they wear? What's their fashion sense? What how tall are they? Maybe I mean, yeah, stuff like that just really helps in making those kind of mutual friendships because they allow you to relate to somebody.
And, like, through the camera really hides a lot of things, right? First of all, you can't really tell how tall I am just by looking at the camera. You know, I could be really short, I could be really tall, or whatever, right? You can't really tell because, well, I'm sitting in a chair. And, right, the camera position, right? The camera that I'm looking at right now, right? The camera position, that's what determines what you guys see, right? And through a camera, things can be modified. Right? I can put on funny goggles, or I can, you know, whatever, do whatever makeup or whatever, right? In real life, it's hard. You know, we see everything through our eyes in real life, right? It's hard to conceal something, you know, blatantly obvious in front of someone. I think that's, and but you know what? I think that's good. You know, I think people should not try to hide themselves from others. I don't think
Mhm.
people should try to hide what they are. I think other people should appreciate, you know, others for who they are. You know, that's how you. I think that's really important in building friendships. Recognizing others for who they are. You know, don't judge them by your standards, right? Or they'll judge, or like you know, if you think they're not worthy of your being a friend by your standards, they might think the other way, right? They might think you're not, you know, worthy of being their friend. It's I think it's really important to see that as a way to build friendships.
Well, I think one point we're really missing is like, to build a friendship, you kind of have to talk a lot with the other person. Like
That is true.
talking is like I know we've been like, how do you make friendships? And we're like, oh, we're going through this whole tangent. But the really the only way is to just talk to them, like,
Mhm.
for a long time. Or well, of course not like for an hour each day, but like, it accumulates like,
Right.
every week and all that. Like I think the only way you can really know a person is like, by talking to them, like getting to know who they are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, of course, with this pandemic,
You can't talk.
you
Well,
can't
you
really
can.
talk to people. I mean, you can, but it's not the same as in person, like face to face talking.
Yeah.
Right. I think face-to-face talking really reveals like their emotions, right? Their mannerisms, right? You can really see, right, what they are. Excuse me, right? They can really. I think it's really important to talk face-to-face because that deep bond that you create. I know there's probably some kind of neurological effects. There's some psychological effects here that we're missing. And if any of you guys know, you guys can comment on in the comments. But right, like I think it's very powerful to talk face to face. It's a very simple thing, right? You know, like no one thinks like, hey, I'm talking face to face, right? It's really natural, and I think with the pandemic, right? It's hard because I'm talking to a computer screen. Yes, I am looking at your faces. Yes, you guys, we are talking, right? But we're separated yet together. So I think you definitely have to agree with that. Talking is very important. And you know what? Sometimes, yeah, people tell me they can't make me be quiet. I talk way too much. Like that's just what I'm known for. I just talk way too much. And I think that is an issue. But I think I just like talking. That's just really something I really like to do. I love talking to people. Like that's just something people can't stop me doing because I want to know more about them. I just and I think there has to be there is a point where you're just like, yeah, you're talking too much or you're not talking enough. Right? I want to try to find the middle point. What about you guys? What do you guys think?
I think the actually yeah. So yeah, talking I feel is really important as well, and I think another aspect to building friendships that is kind of like the other side of talking is listening. I think listening is a super important and underrated kind of underrated thing that people tend to ignore, but I think listening is so important when just in anything, but especially in building relationships and like communicating with people, because listening not only allows you to get to know them better when they're talking and whatnot, but also gives them this sort of respect. Like, oh, I respect your opinion. I want to listen to you. I want to understand your viewpoint, right? And I think a lot of the times we can be so caught up in trying to sometimes make trying to make friends and like get to know people by like talking to them a lot that sometimes we miss out on like listening to what they have to say and listening to their own opinions and their own just whatever they want to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. See, listening is just not enough people listen, including me. I like talking about myself, right? And I like talking about myself. I like talking about my troubles. Sometimes it's hard to be like, yeah, I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna just say, what about you? What are you going through? What do you want to talk about? Right? Do you guys have good ways of like how to be a better listener? I think that's very important. I think in a friendship, right?
Mm.
Hmm.
Theo, do you want to go?
I guess I don't really have any idea though, because I'm kind of like the guy who interrupts the person like every other sentence.
Mm.
Like, I think we just have to, tone down a bit. Just like, you know, rather than trying to put our own thoughts, like, just just passively, like, not passively, you should actively be listening to the other person. Don't like zone out like when you do in your classes and all that. Well, at least sometimes I do in my classes. But there's really no easy way to listen to other people unless you kind of have the talent to do it. But just like keep trying. Like, if you keep try to listen to other people, I'm sure it will come to you like eventually.
I mean, yeah, I think I definitely agree with Theo. Like, it's very hard to put solid, like, oh, do this, and then you'll be a good listener. I think not only is it very hard to pinpoint what those actions are, but it's also very hard to put them into practice. Um, Being a listener is very hard to. It's very, I'd say, unnatural for us because we want to talk about ourselves. We want other people to know who we are, right? Rather than spend time knowing who other people are, right? And so I think, I mean, general tips for listening and like general advice, such as just taking time out of your day to ask, like, how are you doing? Um, if it becomes habitual and if it becomes something that, especially for friends that you're comfortable with, if it's something that's genuine, then I think that'll just naturally train you to be a better listener and um, be able to grow your friendships. And I think another thing to put in is don't always try to give your own opinion about something. Um, I know it is good to be like open about yourself and whatnot, but you don't always have. I think a lot of the times, if you want to show the person that you're listening to them, that you're giving them the respect they deserve and like acknowledging their own viewpoint, then you need to be able to, kind of tone down what your own opinion on it, whether you agree with them or not. Just be able to say, "Oh yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, that's really cool," and um, yeah, because if you turn it into something about yourself, that just that's not listening either. That's not going to help build your relationship with them.
As a Christian perspective, right? God listens to us. We talk to him by prayer. Of course, God tells us things too. Of course, the Bible, right? That's his words. That's the way he communicates to us. That's his main way. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
The communication with us. But he listens. Right? If God listens and he's like a good example that Christians should follow, then why don't we listen? Right? That's just something I think, that we should realize, right? We want to follow God. We want to be a good Christian. Right? Therefore, we have to listen. Right? Some people, I know some people, they don't really show on the outside. But on the inside, they're yearning for someone to listen to them, listen to something, they listen to what they have to say. Maybe they went through a lot. They just need someone somewhere to unpack. You might be that person, right? And the other person might be feeling depressed. You might be feeling anxious about something. He just doesn't have the person to open to. If you just, do the simple thing of just sitting down and listening, you might save, his life. You might really make his day bright because of that. Something simple. Doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a therapist to do this. You can be a normal human being to do this. Wow, right? But I mean,
Easy.
I think it's important though. I think.
Oh, I just want to add one more thing. All these points are really good, like, talking, but, actually listening to people. Another thing is to, like, listen without judgment. Like, try not to criticize the other person. Like, maybe they've been doing something kind of bad, but, just, like, be there to support them. Don't, like, judge them and, like, say something negative to them. Like, and also, I actually interviewed a psychologist who's my aunt. And not psychologist, sorry, counselor. And she said that silence is not always bad. Sometimes, there's those gaps in the conversation. Like sometimes we feel like we have to fill them. But sometimes, like silence can, be kind of good. Like it helps people gather their thoughts and like, elaborate more on their points and like, maybe even vent more of their feelings out. So yeah. And also maybe you can like, if this were in person, it would be a lot easier, but like read their facial expressions. I know that's not really easy to do, but like, I guess like if by reading them, you can like, I don't know, target your conversation to like points where they need or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's, it's kind of natural for human to come to judgment, right? Like it's, it's something when someone else talks about something that I don't that's kind of different. It's so natural that judgment comes to my head. Like, oh no, that's wrong. Oh no, I don't like it. Okay? That's just very natural. But I think we should, try to, try to defeat that. We should try to, fight that urge. Because, well, why would you're not perfect. Why are you judging someone else? That's just their opinion. People are allowed to have opinions about something. Right? Yes, it might be wrong. Right? Yes, it might be, but that's the thing. You think it's wrong. And that is your opinion, right? That is your opinion that you think his opinion is wrong. Right? So yeah, everyone just having their own opinions. So I don't see that's why you should not judge other people, right? Because if you judge others, right, your friendship might be quickly broken, right? Because you can't really build that sense of trust, right? If you're judging someone, they're gonna be like, I can't trust him. He just keeps judging me for who I am. I should find someone else, right? That's that's how a friendship might disintegrate.
All right.
What do you
How
guys?
about our
Wait, so
next topic?
I mean, yeah, I mean this is I think it's I think next thing we want to talk about is we did touch part on this, right? Kind of why is it difficult, right? And what are some of the difficulties that to build bonds with one another, right? Um, I think for me, right, of course, we talked about how a computer screen is. I think the example that I will use to describe how I would how my friendships have been in the pandemic is they're wide but not deep. What I mean by that is I have a lot of friends that I've met during the pandemic, but they're very shallow. Like I know them like very very basically. Like I know who they are. I know basically what they like and like just like some very surface level stuff, right? And I have a lot of those friends, right? Because they're classmates, they're either whether classmates or teammates or whatever. Right? I have a lot of those, but I'm not having those deep relationships, right? That's what I'm saying. Like I have more width than depth, right? The depth is basically actually sitting down with them, asking what their life is about, what they hold, what they believe in, what values they hold, right? What their family is like things like that. I don't understand any of them because, well, I never could. I don't ever have the conversation. I don't ever have the time to do it. And so, yeah, I think that's how I would describe my experience kind of with friends in the pandemic. How about you guys?
Yeah, I think that yeah, I think I share similar sentiments with Nick. Is that there are people that there I have acquaintances, I have peers, and um, not as many as Nick probably has, but I have peers and whatnot. And while there is some level of like knowledge, like common knowledge, like oh we share this interest in volleyball or something like that, there isn't much of an intimate bond or a feeling of greater comfort with them that like I'd be able to share anything with them or like I have complete faith in them, right? And I think that's just generally how um, a lot of friendships are. I mean, you're not going to obviously be super intimate with everyone that you know, but I feel that um, this pandemic has really tested our capability of reaching out to those around us and being able to maintain bonds, especially when, um, it's just really hard to. Like, normally in school or whatnot, you would just see them, you'd say hi, and you'd interact and you'd be able to catch up. But nowadays, it takes initiative to do that. You need to either send a text message or call them up, right? And that a lot of the times that seems a lot more awkward. I don't know about you guys, but to me that seems a lot more awkward to text them, hey, how are you doing? Or how is your day? Because it just doesn't feel natural. And so, yeah, I think it's really difficult to maintain those bonds during the pandemic.
I just want to add one thing.
Mhm.
Um, this is kind of like making friendships before the pandemic. Like sometimes, like I know we're all Christians here. Like sometimes we meet other people who we want to be friends with if they're not Christians. And this is not to say that they should convert to Christianity or anything to be our friend. We make friends with anyone. Like it doesn't matter what their religion is. But sometimes, like if we want to go deeper into a friendship, sometimes we have the urge to like tell them, hey, I'm a Christian, and yeah, that's when our friendships get deep. And sometimes, like, we're afraid, like, if we tell them that, like, they'll reject us, and like,
Mhm.
we'll be all alone again. But I think like there should be a point when you should, tell them that you're a Christian. I don't know if that changes anything in their friendship, but like I I don't know how this relates to our topic, but like, I think there should be you should be brave enough if you're a Christian to tell them about that because that's like opening yourself up more to them, like, and that could really grow your friendship much more.
It's hard. It's hard. Like, hey, dude, I'm a Christian. Right? It's gonna be like, oh, look, you nerd. Just like, well, who are you? Right? But I think if you have a real friend, they'll accept you for being a Christian. Right? I think it's something natural. I think you should tell them what you believe in, right? Because that really shapes what you will do, right? I think I don't think that's something to be ashamed of. Being a Christian is nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
It's something you embrace. It's like saying I'm Asian. This is nothing to be ashamed of, right? I tell others I'm Asian. Well, you can see I'm Asian, but like,
Oh, you're
right,
Asian? No way.
right? Like I'm not ashamed that I'm Asian. Just like how I'm not ashamed to be a Christian. The same thing. You should embrace it. Right? You have a great community, right? There's a great Christian community out there, just like how there's a great Asian community out there, right? So it's like, well, yeah, depending on how you look at it, but like, right, in general, right, it's great, and I think it's important to really see that. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think the concept of being open about your own identity and also being open to other people's identity if they don't affiliate with being Christian, and if they don't necessarily, yeah, if they're not Christian, then obviously that's something you don't have in common with them. But I think, I think foremost, as a Christian, our identity should be should take priority over certain other things. Like to be embarrassed about being Christian is kind of, when you think about it, it's a bit strange because it's something that you have an identity in. Um, and yes, there are some social connotations that come with being a Christian, but I think being open about who being a Christian, being open about that, and being able to talk to your friends about it and understanding that they're not Christian as well sometimes allows you to build that, as we talked about earlier, the mutual respect, right? And through that mutual respect, obviously you don't have to convert them to Christianity. That's not what we're trying to advocate here. But I think just being able to like show them that, yeah, as a Christian, this is how I behave and this is how who I am, right? Will be sort of a display to them on what it means to be a Christian. And while that won't necessarily build your relationships with non-Christians, I think it is still important to discuss, and hopefully we'll go more in depth in another podcast about that.
Right.
Yeah, we will talk. We'll definitely have something like that. But I think for now, I think that's a good place to end. I think that's really good wrap up. We'll continue where we left off. Don't worry. And yeah, as always, if you guys have any questions, please leave it in the comments. We'll try to address them as best as we can. And yeah, well, I guess before we go, Ezra has an announcement today for support groups that will be
Yeah,
hosting.
so we finally have enough people, or at least the minimum amount of people. Uh, so we want to start our own support group, seeing as though we're going to try to advocate for, obviously creating bonds and maintaining friendships within the pandemic. We're starting a support group where we can just talk, be intimate with each other, be open, and we'll do various things. We'll play games. We'll have more serious talks. Um, yeah, we'll just try to create a sort of intimate community. And I think that um, if you're interested, definitely check it out. I know there are people who have already signed. There are already enough participants, but if you're interested and haven't signed up yet, then for sure check it out. The interest form will be in the description. So yeah, it'll be Saturdays at, we said 10 a.m. right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
10 a.m.
Please tell us if you can't make it or something. Please tell us, and we'll try to work out a schedule. But for
We can
now,
always adjust times as well. So
Right.
10 a.m. is not a set schedule. If you sleep in on Saturdays until 2 p.m., then we will try our best to adjust the schedule for that. Um, yeah, so be sure to check it out, and yeah.
so yeah, we'll have some of that small group and chill time if you catch my drift. And yeah, okay, yeah,
That's not, don't ever don't that's not the correct connotation that we're going for, Nick.
Chill time.
what?
Okay, Nick,
Well,
like,
I'll explain later.
Okay,
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thank you guys for coming. Don't forget, we have our Instagram, we have our website, we have everything you need in the link down below, the description down below, not the links. Well, the links are down below too. Yeah, just check them out. If you have any questions, please leave them in the chat. And yeah, thank you guys for coming, and we'll see you next week. Stay safe, guys.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.